If anyone cares about what Labour was supposed to stand for, or indeed about our democracy, this should be a massive deal. I'm not talking about Keir Starmer's penchant for being showered with freebies and gifts from wealthy donors and organisations. Despite being the top 1% of earners, Starmer has received around £100,000 worth of freebies, gifts, hospitality, etc. from wealthy donors and organisations, more than every Labour leader put together since 1997 by a big distance, even as he attacks the winter fuel payment, which will strip support from large numbers of vulnerable pensioners, for example, those eligible for pension credit who don't get it, as well as those just above the threshold, and as he keeps the two-child benefit cap, which drives hundreds of thousands of kids into poverty and further into hardship. That's bad enough. But here's what should shock anyone who cares about our democracy. Open Democracy's investigative reporters have just uncovered that Labour was given £4 million from a hedge fund named Quadrature, which has a share portfolio worth a cool $6 billion. That's a hedge fund based in the Cayman Islands with shares in oil and weapons. We'll come on to that. £4 million, an absurdly large amount of money, is the biggest donation Labour has ever received, ever, in its entire history. And it's the sixth largest in the history of British democracy. Now, according to records uncovered by Open Democracy at the Electoral Commission, which is there to enforce electoral law and the governance of donations, Labour got this donation at a pretty handy moment. It was in a 1 week window between when Rishi Sunak, if you remember, got extremely wet whilst he announced the general election he was inevitably going to lose, and what is known as the pre-poll reporting period. That's when every donation to a political party worth more than £11,180, and boy was this donation over that amount, that had to be published every week when it got to that stage rather than every quarter, every 3 months. That matters. The donation was made on 28th of May. If it'd been made a few days later, it would have had to have been declared during the general election campaign itself. But instead, it's only just been published last week. And that's getting on now for 2.5 months after the election. How convenient for Labour. Now, that slick, well-oiled machine, that is the Labour Party press office, or indeed Number 10, didn't get back to Open Democracy to answer their questions. Very rude. Not least the most pertinent one. Did you time the acceptance of this donation so there wouldn't be any scrutiny of it when it mattered, before the people of this country went out to vote? Now, as Open Democracy note, thanks to the brilliant investigative work of journalist Paul Holden, who has a book coming out about Starmer, which I'm extremely excited about. It's called The Fraud, pithy. He talks about Labour's deceitful campaign to become Labour leader, Paul Holden. He refers to the fact that he didn't publish details about donations in real time during that campaign before the result, unlike his rivals, Lisa Nandy and Rebecca Long Bailey at the time. That meant members had no idea he was being bankrolled by multimillionaires like Martin Taylor, Trevor Chin, and a certain Baron Wahid Ali, Lord Ali, who's now showering Starmer and his wife with, for example, hugely expensive clothes and glasses. Now, what's happened, of course, since Starmer's leadership is the rich and powerful, clearly now comfortable, that Labour won't do anything to challenge the status quo, won't redistribute wealth and power, have been happy to throw dosh at the party, and that includes hedge funds and those linked to big finance. Now, Open Democracy notes that Daniel Lude Thompson, a strategy advisor at Quadrature, has given them a whopping, the Labour Party, £500,000 this year separately from that donation. Now, Quadrature have said they backed Labour because of its commitment to the green transition, the economy, and climate action, as well as social equity and economic resilience, that their donations were about values rather than being a political donation, that they're non-partisan and apolitical. But the Guardian, you see, has found that they've got holdings in fossil fuel companies worth more than $170 million. They particularly note 3 holdings with major polluters: ConocoPhillips, Cheniere Energy, and Cenovus Energy. They've also taken up a $67 million stake in ExxonMobil, one of the world's big fossil giants. Not quite, I have to say, consistent there with the sort of image they've tried to project in that statement I read out. But they've also got significant holdings in arms manufacturers like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Both companies, I should say, with links to Israel's war machine, as well as US private healthcare companies and asset management companies, which, as Open Democracy put it, potentially stand to benefit significantly from Labour's plans to utilise private investment for infrastructure. Now, the fact they're based on a tax haven, well, that's worth bearing in mind, isn't it? When they boast this company about their progressive inclinations, Labour's denounced those tax havens. So, consistency. But seriously, the state of this. The Labour Party, a party founded to stand up and represent and champion the working class and their interests, handed a £4 million donation, its biggest ever donation, the sixth biggest ever in British history, from a hedge fund based in a tax haven with links to oil and gas, weapons, and private healthcare. Businesses should not be bankrolling any political party, not least the Labour Party, the party of workers. If we want political parties which champion vested interests instead of ordinary people, well, this is how we ensure that happens. Now, do we know if these firms think they're getting anything specific from these donations? Well, of course, that's impossible to know, which is why it's so corrosive to democracy. Unsurprisingly, a new poll finds that 60% of voters believe any donations to MPs and political parties from businesses and individuals is unacceptable. Just 8% thinks it's acceptable for them to pay for hospitality, these wealthy individuals and organisations, like tickets to sporting events, like Starmer's football matches, and 7% to pay for clothing for senior ministers to wear official functions, like his clothes. There is derisory support, in other words, for Starmer's obsession with getting freebies from political sugar daddies. Starmer must know this is damaging him. He must know it's damaging his government, but he's refusing to stop taking freebies, which would be the easiest thing in the world for him to do, given how much money he's on. What does this tell us? Well, to me, it suggests he's pretty greedy. Give me another explanation. He's willing to allow his government to be damaged just so he can keep getting freebies. He doesn't need to keep getting these freebies. He can afford to pay for his own clothes. Why does he need to keep getting all these gifts? He doesn't. There's no need for it. Other Labour leaders managed to get away with not doing that, including Tony Blair. So why? But he's like, no, his advisor must be going, he's damaging us actually. Look at the polling. And he's like, I want the freebies. What is that other than greed? It's ridiculous. Now, on top of Starmer being showered with gifts, not least by wealthy businessman Lord Ali, it's not looking good, is it? It looks like a government in the pockets of the rich. I just want to end with something else. That only 11 weeks in, on top of all this, they're at each other's throats, briefing against each other in the media. The BBC at the moment reporting Sue Gray's chief of staff being briefed against after she took a salary higher than the Prime Minister, with one Labour insider denouncing the dysfunctional way Number 10 is being run, saying there is no political judgment. Well, they said it. Labour's polling rating is plummeting. That's my cat there, being very excited about all of this. Collapsing ratings. So let's just think about where Labour's at. Collapsing ratings. No vision. Bad policies. In bed with the rich and powerful, infighting at the top. Not looking good, is it? The only thing which kept this project, such as it is, united, was a desire to crush the left, those who believed in redistributing wealth and power, getting the rich to pay more, investing in public services, bringing utilities into public ownership, properly improving workers' rights, getting rid of tuition fees so young people are not punished for daring to dream for university education we all benefit from, properly tackling the climate emergency, not supporting genocide, those sorts of things, having a peaceful foreign policy. They crush those people. Fine, you win within the Labour Party, boys, and it is mostly boys, but they have no vision for the country. This faction of the Labour Party, and believe you me, I've met these people, is full of people driven by self-advancement and little else. And my prediction is they're going to bitterly fall out with each other. And with nothing holding this together, this project will fall apart in office. But the question is, what then? Because if the left doesn't get its act together, the far right will. And that is something that should worry us all. Please like and subscribe to leave your thoughts, your comments. Help keep the show on the radio at patreon.com/4. Listen to the podcast. I'll be going to Labour Party conference. Every year I do a Labour Party conference video, or most years, and Conservative Party conference. I'm particularly going to enjoy doing both. I'll be now, for the first time, doing my video, Labour Party conference with Labour in government. I'll be asking them some quite interesting questions, I would imagine, and the Conservative Party in opposition. Probably be one of the only people there. Speak to you soon.